All right, everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Game Changer Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in Jacksonville, Florida. And we do this show with people who are changing the game of real estate all over the country. This week on the show, we have Steve Trang. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to finally have you on. Um, for the people who don't know you, could you share a little bit more about what you're currently focused on today?
I want to focus on today. So people still mostly know me for the podcast. I think we can make that argument because we get thousands of views and thousands of downloads on our podcast. So that's what people mostly know me for. But there are another group of people who know me for sales training. So I have the good fortune and blessing to work with the top house buyers in the country, and I get to work with their acquisition managers, their lead managers, their dispo managers, and their sales managers. Right. So we coach four different people, four distinct roles inside people's companies to make more money, to drive revenue. Right. To so we can do whatever we want, whenever we want.
Yeah. And I know years ago, that's how we know each other. I went through your sales training program and it helped me a lot,
hmm
but I'm sure there have been some pretty significant changes since, I don't know, if that was almost 4 years ago since I was
Yeah.
there. Do you want to share maybe what's evolved in that time frame for you?
Yeah. I would say probably two of the biggest things is we. I would say the biggest thing is we emphasize even more on getting them to sell us, right? So our what we talk about is like we don't close prospects, we get them to sell themselves. Like if you're convincing, you're not converting, right? So you got to get them to sell themselves. So something like we place more emphasis on that message.
Hmm.
But the other thing too is we really focus on getting them to tell the story, getting them to tell themselves a good story. And what I mean by that is Ian Ross, he's the other sales trainer in our organization. He and I have this bad habit. By the way, that's why it's so easy to sell salespeople. He and I have this habit of always telling ourselves the best possible version of a story. So like something happens, like, oh,
Hmm.
this is gonna help us do this, or if I buy, this product is gonna get me better at this, and when I get better at this, it's gonna help me do this, right? Like the best stories, right? But there are other people that tell themselves horrible stories. So you can see like two people can get into a difficult situation. One takes it as like, here's what I learned from this, and it's allowed me to do this. And the other person's like, why does this
Hmm.
keep happening to me? I've got such bad luck. The world is against me. Two different stories, right? And so one of the things we focus a lot is how do we have a conversation with a prospect so that they tell themselves such a story that them convincing us to buy their house is the best outcome for them. So we
Hmm.
have to ask questions, make assumptive statements, share third party stories, have a discovery conversation so that they really, really want us to buy their house so that they can move on to their next part of their life. The other thing I would say has been pretty big is that, you know, uh, John Martinez, right? He had a pretty
Hmm.
good training program for the longest time, and then he sold it. One of the things that a lot of people remember from him is Picture Perfect,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Yep.
And Picture Perfect's pretty good, right? Like show me the picture, right? Tell me about this picture. And that's pretty good, right? Like I can't say anything bad about that. What we focus on right now is getting them to experience that next chapter, having them
Hmm.
describe what they see, hear about it, right? What do they feel about all this? So I'll give you
Hmm.
a distinction here, and I'll use the realtor example. So, like, you hear a realtor showing a property and say, like, hey, where would you put the furniture,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That is them seeing the future.
Hmm.
What I want to do is like, hey, Mike, when you buy this house and you have your housewarming party, you get your friends and family over, like, what part of the house are you going to be showing first? Right now, you can
Hmm.
experience this future. So, like, where is the furniture? That's pretty good, right? Picture perfect. That's pretty good.
Hmm.
But for us, the standard is getting the other person to experience what life is like after we've done business together, because
Hmm.
that's the story we want them to tell us. Because again, once they've experienced a story physiologically, the body cannot tell the difference between imagined reality and reality. We know this from watching horror movies, right?
Hmm.
No one's actually trying to kill you, but it's scary as hell, right? And so if we can get them to imagine that new reality, that is what gets people to take action.
So are you still selling on like the away from pain side, or have you guys really shifted more towards like the future, like I guess you'd call it moving towards pleasure or moving towards where they want to be type of selling?
So what we really focus on is the pain.
Mm-hmm.
We still go really deep in pain,
Mm,
really deep in pain. That's where we start still. And then we get to like, hey man, like how awesome is this going to be? Tell me about that. What is it going to look like? What are
mm,
people going to say? Right. And then we create this massive gap.
mm-hmm.
That's what gets them to take action. And then we add one more thing as but my what but I have one concern. Like, what if we can't make this happen for you? They're like, no, I need this to happen. So like we
Ah,
we go through the depths of despair. We go through like how awesome, amazing it's going to be, and then we go into like, well, but my fear is we can't agree on a price where it's going to be able to. We can do all that for you.
mm.
And now they're like, no, this has to happen. Like, what price do we need to be so I can have this happen?
Got it. So you build that gap and then you take it away, and then that's when they start selling you even more,
Right?
trying to
And they're like,
convince
no,
you. Yeah.
yeah, they're like, no, Steve, like, this needs to happen. Like, what do we need to do for you to make this happen for me?
Wow. Okay. And you were saying a little bit before, it's like you kind of get them to tell that story. You're trying to get them more into
Hmm.
that story. Like, is there certain tactics that you've started using that allow them to more easily share this story with you as a salesperson?
It's gonna be like, hey, because we had versions of this, when we're
Hmm.
working together. It's like, hey, like after we buy your house, like, what's the first thing you're doing with the money, right?
Mm.
Like that was the beginning of it,
Hmm.
but we really just built that out more and more. Like, tell me what's gonna be like, where are you gonna go? What are you doing? Man, you're gonna get in an RV and drive the country. What's that gonna be like? Where are you
Mm.
going? Where's the first place you're going in that RV? Right. So we want them to tell us more about what life's gonna be like and how awesome it's gonna be.
Yeah.
The more they can tell us about that future, now again we get that delta, right? Like something we really emphasize is the stress hormone is cortisol,
Hmm.
right? The pleasure hormone is dopamine. I am trying to pump them in as much cortisol and dopamine as possible over the whole pain and gain conversation. Like it's kind of like, the worst thing you can do is like, Red Bull vodka, like stimulants and depressants
Yeah.
at the same
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing in an appointment. Like, we're giving you full of dopamine, for full of cortisol, and at that point is what compels you to take action. Because look, I didn't get when I got into sales. Right, I came from an engineering background.
Mm.
For me, I buy logically. Right, give me all the facts. I'll make the best decision. Give me the
Mm.
details. Give me the information. I'll make the decision that's best for me.
Mm.
I wish this is how the world operated. This is not how the world operates. So people buy emotionally. Well, if they
Mm.
buy emotionally, then let's get all the emotions on the table so that we can compel someone to take action. And look, it's not like we're manipulating people that don't need to sell. These are people that need to sell,
Mm.
right? We're just convincing them to work with us versus all the competitors.
Mm.
Right? That's all we're doing here, right? Like, they're gonna sell their house. My job is to get you to go with me, and that's why we go through this whole situation of depths of despair, the victory, imagined reality,
Hmm.
and then like, but what, we can't do it.
Yeah. I gotcha. Have you guys changed? I know like you guys were pretty, and I don't know if you still have the same terminology for it, but you used to call it, I think it was setting the rules or something
Hmm.
like that at the beginning of your process. Are
Yeah.
you still doing that
Mhm.
like pretty firm, or have you adapted that as the market's
That
changed? Or
hasn't changed. That has not changed at all.
yeah.
So on the house buying side, it's uh, the only small changes we've had. So we used to say, "Hey, I'm going to ask you some personal questions." Now I say, "Hey, I'm going to ask you some questions that might come across as personal."
Hmm.
Right? Like, that's like, I think that. And one thing we added to is like, "Hey, Mike, just so we're on the same page here, can you just share with me what you just heard?" So like we added that. So like some questions that might come across as personal. Can you share with me what you just heard? Because that's just make sure we're on the same page, right? Because like they're
Mm.
agreeing to a yes or no. I'm not allowed to think about it. We need to make sure they understood what they agreed to, because what happens sometimes you get to the end, like, I didn't realize what I was agreeing to. So
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So we add that it might come across personal versus I'm going to ask you some personal questions, and Can you share everything we just heard, just to make sure that there's no confusion as to what they just agreed to?
Sure. And then I know we were talking a bit offline. You guys are doing, some training for people on the dispo side too, which I imagine has
Yes,
changed greatly in the last 2 years.
a lot,
Yeah.
a
I
lot.
mean, you didn't
Yeah.
really need
So
it
we
before, right? So like,
Yeah, so before it was like, Mike, this is the price. You want it or not?
yeah.
Right? Like that was the extent of the sales process in Dispo.
Hmm.
Now we got to build out the buyers list. We got to find out who they are, what's important to them, why they're buying properties. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people
Mm.
are missing is, we talked about Simon Sinek, start with why. People will do things for the whys, not for the whats. And so often we're focused on like the property details, right? Bedroom, bath, this price, ARV, comps, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
People don't buy for what. So we have to figure out why they're buying. And it sounds ridiculous, right? Like I'm gonna find out, well, Mike needs to flip 18 houses this year. It's like,
Mm.
okay, well, what's important about flipping 18 houses this year? Well, like we got these goals and I want to take my family to Europe for a month or whatever it is. Like you got your reasons, right?
Hmm.
Now when I call you, it's like, hey Mike, I got a property. I think it's gonna fit exactly what you're trying to do. I know you want to hit 18. I think this is gonna be one of your 18. Now you don't care nearly as much about like the what and the scams. Like I'm not saying you don't care.
Mm.
It's just that because this checks your when you're 18, you're gonna be a little bit lax. You're gonna be willing to go outside a little bit of your parameters.
Mm.
But if I just focus on the what's, you can nitpick this, nitpick that. Well, you're looking at this comp, I'm looking at that comp, right? You're gonna focus really on the what's. But if we're focused like, hey, remember, this is to help you take that month to Europe with your family, right?
Mm.
You said that was important. Now it's a much easier sell. So if we can figure out what's important to the people that are buying from us, it's not about the specs of the home. It's about like, hey, this is going to help you serve your higher goal. One of the things we talked about in our kickoff meeting for this year, right? Like our first dispo call for the year, it's like, hey, did you guys all talk to all your buyers and figure out what their goals are?
Mm.
Because if you don't know what their goals are, you're selling on what's
Mm.
selling on what's. It works, but man, you're getting battered in negotiation because like who do we sell to? People that negotiate all day, every day for a living. They're negotiating
Yeah.
materials, labor, closing costs at the title company. I got a guy in town who pays $50 per escrow, right? Like they're negotiating that, negotiating terms on money, negotiating the realtor's commission. You think they're not beating up Dispo guy? You got to get into the why, or else you're negotiating on the what's, and you're negotiating against the best negotiator in town.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're not negotiating against the person who sells one home in their lifetime. You're negotiating against the guy
Mm-mm,
who's doing 20 a year and he knows the game.
exactly.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys are advising people to do on the dispo side from a sales process perspective?
Uh, yeah. I mean, we're teaching people to qualify their buyers. And
Mm.
so like, if I call you up, I was like, hey, Mike, I want to, are you okay if I add you to the list? And you're like, I don't know, maybe, right? Just email me your deals, right? That's typically how these conversations go.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say, hey, Mike, look, I just need to know, do you want me to put you on the email list, the text blast list, or like the call first list? And you're like, well, I mean, if it's a good deal, I'm on the call first list. Okay, great. I want to put you on the call first list. I just got to ask you a few questions before we can put you on the call first list.
Mm.
What's that? Hey, so how many houses have you bought in the last 6 to 12 months? Great. All right. Can you share with me some of those properties you bought? Right. And then, hey, if I sell you a property worth 100K for 50,000, how much do you care that I bought it for $1? And you're like, you're trying to make 50K on me? Okay, you're not on the call first list.
Sure. Yeah.
100% you're not on the call first list, right? But you're like, I don't care as long as I'm making money, you do whatever you want. Okay, great. You're on the call first list.
Hmm.
But what's happened here is now we're getting buyers to want to be on our list. So before it's like this whole begging and like pleading, hey Mike, can I put you on my list?
Mm.
Now it's, hey, yeah, I need to know which list to add you on, and everybody wants to be on the call first list.
Sure. Yeah.
So hey, great. There's just a few questions I got to ask you before I can put you on the call first list.
Mm. And then like how are you handling like obviously when the market was really hot, right? You said you just put a price out there, it's either take it or you don't, or it's like,
Mhm,
20 people want it and you're like, give me your highest and best, and maybe you sell it for over
mhm,
your price.
yeah, mhm.
Now it's probably a little bit more of a dance where you may not have as many buyers. Like how are you advising people in terms of like multiple offers or, moving forward with someone who meets your price? Because
Yeah.
that can be a little stickier.
So so I know like one of the challenges we always have is like, do we go highest and best or do we go first come first serve? There's
Yeah.
always like that like dichotomy, and I like to pick the best of both worlds, right?
Hmm.
Mike, if you're on my call first list, it's first come first serve.
Ah.
If you're in my text and email blast, it's highest and best. So again, do you want to be on the call first list? This is what's required. Then it's first come first serve. I call you. I said, I got this property for you. And you say, great. All right, that works for me. Perfect. I'm going to send you an invoice. I need you to pay it. Right? It's a Stripe invoice. I'm going to send you an invoice. Once you pay it, property is yours. We're not playing this game where you're depositing earnest money at title whenever you want. It's like you're sending me earnest money into my bank account because now I know we're not going to have this deal like, hey, Steve, I need a price reduction. Or, hey, I walked the property and you know what? It's going to be a lot more work than I thought. We're going to have to cancel. We're going to have to do a price reduction. We're not playing that game.
Hmm.
You want this deal? You want me to send you properties? You have to pay me by Stripe because I want to know this property's done. As a wholesaler, I want to know this property is done.
Huh. That's interesting. I haven't heard of anyone doing that. Huh.
Yeah.
And then
I've got some crazy ideas.
yeah, and then like are people providing like giving pushback on that at all? Like that you find, or how do you
Yeah,
handle
we get pushback,
resistance?
but
Yeah.
our best buyers don't. So it's it's this that whole deal of like it's only as big a deal as you make it, right? Um like
Hmm.
I have a good reputation in the industry. So they know I'm not out there to screw people. If you're newer, you might have a harder time getting away with this. But for me, it's like this is the way we do business. You want it? You want to do business or not? Right? So it's non-negotiable for me. When I present it that way, it's not a big deal. But I was like, hey, Mike, we have this process where you have to send a Stripe. Like I know, like it's kind of weird, but like my boss
Hmm.
requires it. Then they're like, well, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But like, hey, here are the next steps. Then it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me, I bought a wholesale deal like last year from like a buddy of mine, and he was like, "Oh, we have you send the EMD to our office," and I was like, "I'll send it to you guys because I know you, but like if you guys screw me on this, like, I also know where you live. So like,
Exactly.
I know you're
Exactly.
not gonna like screw me on it, but like, if some random person asked me, I'd be like, I don't know, right? There's not
Right.
trust there.
Yeah.
So
And then maybe we just do like the first two or three. Okay, fine. Like you don't want to do it right now. First two, we'll go through title company, but to continue to be on that call first list, here are the requirements.
yeah, once you give them a little taste of, okay, you can get these deals, I'll work with you
Hmm.
this time. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what about you mentioned before the lead management side? Like,
Hmm.
what's kind of your guys' criteria to say, hey, like, we should go run this appointment?
For me, um, I am of the let's work hard and make a lot of money mindset. I was telling you I'm working on something. I'm waking up 4:30 every morning
Hmm.
without an alarm to work on something. So for me, if you need to sell, that's all I need to know. Right? I
Hmm.
mean, obviously we need all decision makers there, but I don't care what you want for your home. I don't care when you want to sell it by. I don't care about any of that. If you need to sell, right? There's a pending foreclosure, there's a job relocation, whatever. If you need to sell, that's all I care about, right? Like you got Emoda, you got the four pillars or whatever. Like I only care about one thing.
Hmm.
Do you need to sell? If you need to sell, my job as a salesperson is to get the rest there, right? The other three pillars or the rest of it. That's my job.
Hmm.
So that's all I care about as far as qualification goes.
How are you like, because I can understand that from myself. Like when I was setting my own appointments and going on my
Mm,
own appointments, I'm like, this person needs to sell. I can just smell it. Like I'm out
mm,
there. But I've had
yeah.
some more difficulty communicating like that need to sell versus want to sell to people who work for me. So how do you
Hmm.
communicate that to? your appointment setters, your lead managers?
So there's a guy in Collective Genius. It's Jim. Oh man, I can't remember his last name right now. He's in Philly. Um, and I love his policy. I won't use the whole language. If we're unsure, F it, go. I'd rather go than not go if we're unsure. If the line's blurry, just go.
Hmm.
Like why would you not? Right? So that's our policy.
Yeah, gotcha. And
Yeah.
then you mentioned offline too that you're doing some stuff around like AI and sales. You want to talk a bit
Mhm.
about that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that so until a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, I was kind of like, we've been hearing this AI talk for like what over 2 years now, right? Like AI is here, AI is here, AI is here, and my position this whole time has been like, well, I don't have time for that. I am too busy. I'm gonna let someone else smart figure that out, and then I'll just buy his product,
Hmm.
right? His or her product. That was my position. I'll just wait for someone smart to figure it out, and I'll just buy their product. And a few weeks ago, I had some people say like, Steve, here's what we want you to make for us because you're the sales authority.
Mm.
We want you to make it. And like one person asked, like, okay, that's flattering. I appreciated that they reached out to me. Second person says it's like, okay, well, maybe we should do something. Third person asks, it's like, okay, we have something to sell. It's actually how we launched our sales training program, right? Like,
Huh.
I wasn't planning on a sales training program. It wasn't until I was in Dallas at We Live 19 where I spoke in front of, like 1,000 people. And they're like, hey, we want to pay you to train us in sales. Like, oh, really? Okay. Well, that sounds like a business, right? I'm an entrepreneur. We can make money here. Let's do this. Now we got people like, hey, here's what we want. And I realized um, that I can do it. And so now that I know that I can do it, we're just doing it. So now we're
Mm.
rolling out some products. Um, we're doing a webinar on Friday, and I'm super excited about it because I think we're going to do some really cool things for a lot of cool people. The clients I'm talking to right now, I've told what I've said to them is like, look, you guys put your faith in me. You guys, I'm going to be putting weapons of mass destruction in your hands. Let's destroy the competition.
Hmm. What kind of things are we talking about with AI here?
So the first thing is call reviews. Call
Mm.
review is the bane of every
Oh,
owner and sales manager. It's just the worst,
yeah,
right?
terrible.
Listen to that side. It's just the worst. And so now we've automated it. So Ian Ross is another sales trainer in our organization. The guy is a freaking rock star. He is the only person I know who's a bigger sales nerd than me, right?
Mm.
So he's been training the AI bot for over a year now. And so we took that and we put it into our program. And so now, after every sales call, you within minutes will get a report, Slack, Google Chat, however you want to receive it, email of how the call went,
Mm.
right? Minutes. So I remember we were having lunch last week, me and the sales manager, and we're having lunch, and he opens his email and he says, hey, like these call reviews are automated already. I was like, yeah, I told you this morning. They're automated now, right? And he looks at it and he's like, why is she doing that? I'm like, what do you mean? And he showed it to me, and because he gave specific instructions, like what to do for the day, and she wasn't following it. And so we had a WTF moment, and I was like, hey, message her now, let her know to stop doing that right now, right?
Mm.
But we caught it within minutes, not within weeks, not within months. We're catching the sales mistakes now. So I think that is going to be a total game changer. I think anyone that doesn't have that is going to fall behind pretty quick.
Yeah, I
So,
think
so
I
that's the
think
first
that's
thing.
yeah, I think that's amazing because like we're always trying to at least with my sales team like how can I get them feedback like as fast as humanly possible. It's
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
doing the call recordings at the end of the week is not as fast as humanly possible. That's a like
Mm-mm.
7 days of mistakes being ingrained and like building a habit of something
Hmm.
bad versus And I actually have someone who manually listens to the calls now and sends them feedback once a day on the calls,
Yeah.
and that helps a lot.
Mhm.
But I mean, this sounds even better to not have to do that. I mean, minutes after the
Right.
call.
Minutes, minutes. Now it's based off transcripts, not audio. AI
Mhm.
is not there for audio yet, but I can promise you when it is, we're gonna have it available. Right. So it's based off transcripts. It's based out of 50 points. It checks, how clear were expectations, how much time do you spend on emotions. Did you sell them, or were you convincing them, or were they selling themselves?
Huh.
Clarity on next steps. So like we're scoring on all of that, right? Um, was this a thinking conversation or a feeling conversation?
Mm.
Um, right. So like all of that is automatically scored in every call. So that's the first thing we're doing. Second thing we're doing is one of the things that as a sales organization we all say role play is important. We all say it, right? But do we act as if it's as important as we say it is? Or do we like, okay, the sales guys didn't do any role play today. Like, all right, fine, we'll just do it tomorrow, or we'll just do it next week, right? So what we're setting up right now is that you can require your team to do a role play 15 minutes every morning with our AI bot. And so
Mm.
once you do the role play with the AI bot, right, it's all going to be reported. And so we're going to have green lights and red lights for everybody here. And once they've done the 15 minutes of role play, all right, you get leads for the day. But until you've done the 15 minutes of role play every morning, you don't get leads. And you can pick, right? You can pick like, are we going to role play this specific objection? Are you going to role play like this specific type of homeowner? Right? Like, what's the biggest challenge you've been having over and over again? Let's role play that.
Mm.
So that's something we're rolling out. And then what was the other thing? I could tell you, a business owner, screening applicants sucks. And I think you told me about like the one-sided interview, right?
Yep.
One-way interviews.
Yeah.
We're going to be adding on top of that. Uh, until you actually do, like, we'll do the screening call, but until you do a role play with our AI bot, we're not bringing you in for an interview,
Ah. Okay. And
right?
it's gonna score
So
that
now we're
role.
going to
It'll score that role play, or
score the role play, right?
wow.
Because now we can see, like with our system, you can see how someone's progressing, right? Because a specific question I got this from Brad Chandler:
Mhm.
how do I know when my new person is ready to take leads? Well, now we can objectively determine when someone's ready for leads. It's not like they've been here for a month. It's not they've had this many conversations. Objectively, we can score them. Are they ready for leads?
Yeah.
That's what we're rolling out.
And is that like an audio thing? Are they role playing with like a video
Mhm.
AI person on the other end, or is it
Audio, audio.
okay?
But yeah, but it'd be role play, right? Role play, scored, all that good stuff. Logins, you can see it all.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And then can you, as the sales manager, maybe take something from the first AI and say, "Hey, Johnny has been doing terrible on setting
Mhm.
expectations. Can I feed him setting expectations role plays for this
Yeah.
week?"
So my vision here is that they can go in there and just pick what they want to role play on, right? Like,
Hmm.
we're gonna create avatars for all the different type of homeowners, and then we'll have stuff for like different type of objections. So
Hmm.
that is the vision here.
And are you rolling these out as like independent standalone products, or are these things that you're just kind of that are people in your training program that are for people already in the program?
Already in the program gets it for free. Everyone else is not in our program gets to pay a decent, healthy monthly subscription. But it's gonna be cheaper than anywhere else, right? Like you look at Gong. Gong's like what 5,000 a month plus,
Yeah.
right? 1,600 per person per year, right? Like we're gonna be significantly cheaper than everybody else, and we're gonna be leading edge. So I am. So I'm saying like I'm waking up 4:30 o'clock in the morning working on this stuff. I'm every waking hour. This is what I'm working on.
Yeah. I think that's awesome too, especially the call scoring, because if someone messes up a call, you can just see that call and then just kick it to
Mhm.
another sales rep and be like, see if you can go
Yeah,
rescue this, and like you can make the money
yeah.
back. I mean, like that. So,
And if someone, so for someone listening right now, they can test it. So the automated part, we're charging for it, but they can get the free version. And the free version is just go to objectionproof.ai.
hmm.
You could do it manually. Just upload transcripts. You'll get the full report. There's no cost there, right? So anyone can go there and do it as often as you want, right? So like someone that's a solo operator doing one deal a month that wants to score, a few calls, that's done. That's free. What I'm charging for is going to be the automation so that you can see like
Mm.
every time a team member is on the phone, you can see how they did.
And is that just like integrated with the CRM calling system, or how do you get that
Hmm.
information over? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I use Go High Level. We have it automated with Go High Level. I am actively working with Left Main right now. So hopefully by the end of today, that'll be done. I got a call with Smartphone next week because I met with the founder last week, and I got a call with his tech team next week. And based off our conversation, because I already played around with their API settings inside a
Hmm.
smartphone, um, I think by the end of next week we should have it integrated for everyone that uses a smartphone.
Wow.
So they just have to hit on, and it's done.
Well, good thing I
So
use Go High Level, so it's already out for me. So
yeah, yeah,
cool.
exactly.
And then you were saying too offline, you were really talking about how to build like a self-managing team is a big thing that you
Hmm.
guys are focused on in your training. Like, could you talk
Absolutely.
more about that?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that frustrates a lot of business owners is this feeling of babysitting salespeople, right?
Hmm.
And I think the reason why this happens is because you're not helping them enough. And what I mean by that is we're willing to work crazy hours, right? We're willing to work 70 hours a week, go meet a homeowner at 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday, right? 9:30 in the evening on a Saturday. We have no problems doing it as a business owner. Why? Because we are clear on what we want. We know how much money we want to make. We know what our goals are,
Hmm.
right? We can pay for mentors and so on. Our salespeople don't have the ability to go and hire all the other coaches that we have hired.
Hmm.
We have got to be that coach. And so once we can help our salespeople get clarity on purpose and goals, they're going to work a lot harder because it's one thing to say, as a business owner, like, why aren't you working my leads? No one likes that, right? But it was like, hey, Mike, when we were talking earlier, you were saying it was important to you to make at least 150,000 this year because you're trying to get your wife to quit her job, and you guys are looking to move in a better part of town, or maybe move closer to her parents so that you have more help.
Hmm.
Have your goals changed? Right
Yep.
now, it's like, why aren't you working hard? It's about your goals, not about my profits. So we're working with business owners have to put into place all the pieces you need to have a team that is self motivated.
Hmm.
The most frustrating thing as an owner is managing a sales team,
Hmm.
right? But you can lead a sales team if you know how to, right? So this is step one. I mean, step two, we can do the math. Hey, how much you want to make? Everyone says six figures. Okay, but like how much you really need to make? Like what your true goals are? What are your true goals? We quantify it into dollars, and once we quantify into dollars, we quantify that to how many dollars per month, and then we turn that into how many contracts you need to close per month, which turns to how many contracts you need to sign per month, which turns into how many appointments you need to have per month, which turns into how many appointments per week, which turns into how many conversations you need to have per day.
Hmm.
And now we're holding you accountable to the number of conversations per day so that you can hit the goals you said were important to you.
Hmm.
Uh, the, the exercise where, and I've been doing this exercise forever because, remember I had a brokerage, I trained all these agents. The piece I was consistently missing was they said they wanted to make this much money. But people don't do things for money. They do things for outcomes, right?
Hmm.
It's the reason why people sell us their house for such a discount is because they're trying to get this particular outcome. Our salespeople are trying to get this particular outcome. Why are we not helping them achieve it? So that is how we build a self-managing team. Was we get people that are self-motivated, self-inspired, so that they're not working for you, they're
Hmm.
working for themselves, and you hit your goals by helping enough salespeople on your team hit their goals. Sound familiar, right? Zig Ziglar,
Yeah. Yep.
right? We're just helping our salespeople accomplish their goals, achieve their goals. And when they do, we achieve our goals.
Yeah. What's something that you guys do though to help them get clear on their goals? Because we do a lot of goal setting stuff internally, and I find when a lot of times when people start, if they've never set real goals before,
Mm-hmm.
they almost kind of like have a little trouble getting clear on what they really want.
Yeah, and I think you and I have talked about mindset as well, right?
Hmm.
And I think one of the biggest problems we have as a society is that we have removed from ourselves the permission to dream.
Hmm.
I think that was beaten out of us as kids, whether from home or from school, right? But the permission to want more, the permission to dream. So, like a lot of people's creativity have been, you know, um, eliminated, crushed, and so on. And so we got to work with them patiently, right? And so, just like you run through the pain and gain you have with a homeowner, you run through that gain conversation with your team. Hey, what are you trying to do? What's important to you,
Hmm.
right? You got one of those things like the seven whys. Why do you want to do this? Well, why do you want to do that? Well, what's the why behind that? What's the why behind that? There's that. And then you got Simon Sinek. I remember watching his TED talk. I thought it was like the most amazing thing ever,
Hmm.
right? And then I read the book. I was like, it didn't really do so much for me. Like I was just stuck with the TED talk,
Yeah.
right? But then Finding Their Why was his follow up book. Um,
Mm.
and even though I didn't love the Start with Why book, because again, I felt like it just was a longer version of the TED talk,
Mm.
I actually really enjoyed the Finding Their Why book
Mm.
because that helps find the plug into what their purpose is. So I think that one's pretty good as well for goal setting. But again, like so many of us have not given ourselves permission to dream, permission to do big things, right? Like the natural tendency is to bash on other people dreaming big, right? Who do you think you are? So we have to help them get through that.
Yeah. We talk a lot about that we do like a mindset training once a week for our
Hmm.
entire team,
Yeah.
actually. It's been a game changer. And
Hmm.
one of the things you'll hear people say in the beginning is, one of the things we have people do is design 100 things they want, 100 experiences they want. And in the
Yeah.
beginning, they'll be able to do like 10 or 20. And then
Hmm.
they'll be like, what about this? Like, I don't need that. But you want it. I mean,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with like if you do really well going buying yourself a $150,000 car. I mean, if you make
Yeah.
$1 million a year, what's wrong with that? But they've
Right.
been kind of like told by their parents you don't need that, or school or society or whatever.
Hmm.
And it, like you said, it takes away their ability to dream, but then that also like removes their motivation because they're like, well, I
Exactly.
don't need those things. I can live cheaply. It's like, but do you want
Hmm.
those things?
Yeah.
So,
You can, right? And for people that don't want to buy those nice things, okay. But do you want to give back to charity, right? Do you want to give back to church? Do you want to give back to your city, right? Like there's other things you can do when you have money.
yeah,
It's not just like buy nice stuff. It's just like what is important to you.
yeah, yep. And yeah, even when people say things like that, I always like to ask them. So they're like, oh, I want to give to this organization. I'm like, well, what does that do for you personally?
Yeah.
Because it
Hmm.
does do something for you personally. You get a sense of
For sure.
satisfaction or fulfillment, and like that's really what people are
100%.
after. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, um, are you using AI at all in that section of the business and kind of helping people grow their mindsets or?
Not for the mindset, not yet, but probably at some point. I mean, it is accelerating so quickly right now.
Hmm.
Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if we got there. But no, today is about how to uh, quickly give feedback to our salespeople, and then also how to for our talking about self managing team is having giving a sales manager more tools so that can be more effective in managing a team. I think that's gonna be one of the biggest things.
Yeah. And I think that this is kind of a different topic, but one challenge that we've noticed with our sales team the last couple months is homeowners seem to be picking up less and less phone calls
Hmm.
than previously. Um,
Yeah.
so many people are getting spam calls, robocalls out there that I mean we're making an insane amount of dials just to get 12 people a day to have a
Hmm.
minute or longer conversation. How are you guys tackling the reduction in people picking up their phone?
Um, so we've been doing more triple taps, right? So
Triple.
double tap used to
Okay.
be the thing.
Yeah.
But we do more triple taps. And the only reason why is because like if you look at the iPhone, they have a setting here where like you have to call twice from unknown numbers for it to ring once, right? So the triple tap serves the purpose of the double tap.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we've done more of that, and the rest of it is just uh, if you're clear in your goals, you can keep hammering the phones, right? So we
Mm,
can't do anything on getting to the answer the phone more, but we can do something on our side. What we can control is the activity. So
mm,
just sitting there and banging the phones again for clarity of purpose and goals, right?
mm,
Like we could do anything so long as it serves our purpose.
mm-hmm.
We just gotta make sure we know what our purpose is.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should dive back a little because in the beginning we jumped right ahead, and I don't think a lot of people might know like the style of selling that you have. And when I
Hmm.
started in your sales training program about 4 years ago at this point, I was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
So do you want to share with people kind of how you sell that's totally different than your typical pushy
Hmm.
salesman? Hey, Steve, I think I lost you there.
Oh, I can hear you. That's weird. My
Uh,
video's
we're
fine at this side. There you go.
we're good now.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, you just pick
Yeah.
it. It cut
All right.
out right after I answered the question. I didn't hear anything you said. So.
Okay. So I think what a lot of people know about in regards to sales is what they know from Hollywood and their experience in buying cars. Like that's what we know about sales. And so everyone thinks sales is this convincing people, right? Let me give you all the features and benefits.
Mm,
And if you sell this way, it's kind of like imposing your will on somebody. You're doing a majority of the talking.
mm,
And so for us, we tend to pull away because if you pull away, you create a void. And in that space, they'll step in to fill it and they'll chase you. You look at a dating analogy, no one wants to date the desperate guy, right? The girl wants the guy that is irresistible, that he doesn't care if he gets the girl in that, right? So like that's the dating analogy. But at some point, I think like in the 70s, we started teaching like features and benefits, right? Let me come in with a presentation. Let me tell you how awesome our stuff is, which is great in theory, but your competition has the same exact slide deck of features and benefits, right? Um, and so I'll share it another way. So, talking about features and benefits. So you go to Home Depot and you're looking to buy a drill, right? The first sales guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, well, here's the drill, or here's a drill. It's got this many horsepower. It's got, you know, this length of cord. It's reversible. It's got, the key is attached to it and all this other stuff, right? And you're like, okay, I don't know what any of this means. How does this help me, drill, right? Because
mm-hmm,
they got all these different drills here. And so the more seasoned sales guy is pretty good because he comes in, he's like, well, Mike, tell me the hole you're drilling, right? So we don't sell the features benefits, we sell the hole, right?
mm-hmm,
Hey, what kind of hole are you drilling? It's like, well, I'm building something in the backyard. I got to drill through concrete. It's like, okay, well, how close are you to the power supply? It's pretty far out there. Okay, so if you're gonna drill in the concrete, not close to power supply, here's the drill you want. Okay, they listened to you, they diagnosed, and then they prescribed. Pretty
mm,
good, right? But our selling style is not about the features and benefits. It's not about the whole. It's about the memories and the experience. So, Mike, what brings you here to buy a drill today? Well, I'm building a treehouse. Oh, that's cool. Tell me about that. Well, my kids are growing up so fast, and I read this book that says that we'll have 18 summers with our kids. And so I want to make sure that we're reading books together underneath the moonlight so that they can remember this later on in their lives. It's like, wow, building a treehouse that can remember your kids. Okay, if you're trying to build a treehouse for your kids, this is the drill you want. And from that, you're just going to buy the drill I tell you to buy. And there's massive price elasticity. If this drill was like 10 times more than the first drill, you're like, well, but if this is the drill that helps me accomplish what I want, then
mm-hmm,
that's the drill I'm going to buy. So that's our evolution. So, um, Most salespeople are between the first guy and the second guy.
Mm-hmm.
People we train are the third guy. We get paid more, we sell more because we don't sell the clients, we get the clients to sell themselves. Going back to that example with the drill,
Mm-hmm.
they came in to create memories, right? They're selling themselves on this drill. Hey, if this is the drill I need to go do this, great. Give me that drill. I'm out of here, right? But what do most salespeople do? Well, let's talk about the drills, right? And now they're like lost and they're asking questions. They're peppering them about like how many horsepower you need and like length of cord and all this other stuff. And now this entirely logical conversation. They didn't come here for a dissertation on drills, right? They came here to build a treehouse. And so I would say that's the biggest difference for us. Again, we don't convince, we don't do all the talking. We just find out what's important to them and we help facilitate their goals for our wholesaling clients by buying their house.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was laughing as you were saying it because when I went to buy my last car, like I sat in this one car and like I wasn't,
Mm,
I don't like this one, and then I got another, and I was like, yeah, I like this one. The guy's like, what do you like about it? I'm like, I just like the way it feels in the red seats. And then he proceeds
mm,
to show me like 20 others, and I'm like, telling me every single feature they have, and I'm like, and I, at
mm.
one point I stopped him. I'm like, I just like the red seats. You got anything else with red seats? He's like, but there's so many features for you to look at. I'm like, the red seats are all I want. like,
Only thing
uh,
I care about.
he's like,
Yeah,
it's like 340 horsepower. I'm like, I don't know what that means. like, I don't know
right.
about cars, but I like the red seats. Can I
Yeah,
see more of those, please? like,
exactly. Right. You know what you wanted. Now his
yeah,
job is to find you the car that has the red seats.
yep,
That's it. We facilitate based off what the other person wants.
yeah,
The other person came here to buy, right? There's two different contradicting thoughts here that I preach. One, it's their job to say no. Because if their job was to say yes, what the hell do I need a salesperson for? It's their job to
mm,
say no, right?
mm-hmm,
But at the same time, they want to say yes. They came here to buy. They didn't come here and talk to you because they got nothing better to do. They're talking to you because there's hope that you can solve their problem.
mm,
So it's us that's screwing up the transaction.
mm-hmm,
We're the ones getting in the way, right? They came to us hoping we can solve their problems and we screw it up. So we got to get out of the way. Don't be that car guy who's talking about horsepower. Be the car guy that says, "Okay, you're looking for a car for with red seats. Okay, what's important about red seats? How soon were you looking to, have a car that red seats,
mm-hmm,
right?" Asking those kinds of questions, but it's about what you said was important, not what I think is important. Which is the other thing salespeople do is they're always injecting what they think is important.
mm-hmm,
What I think is important is completely irrelevant. Only thing that matters is the prospect's desires.
yeah. So how are you kind of reversing that conversation instead of going in there and saying, here's all the features I have? How are you
Mhm,
getting the homeowners, especially the ones who might be like a little bit more cagey about sharing their
mhm,
problem? Like, how are you getting them
mhm.
to open up and share with you really what's going on so you can build that pain gap and then do the rest of your process?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same set of questions we're always asking. Is like, hey, like, why am I here?
Mm,
Why did you ask me to come over today? Or why did you ask me to give you a call? Okay, well, tell me more about that. Wow. Okay, well, how long has that been going on? Interesting. When's the last time that happened? What have you tried to do to fix it? How did that go? What else have you tried to fix? Did that work? Like it's the same set of questions, but they're all open ended,
mm,
except for the first one of why am I here, right? Besides that, we're just peppering them with open ended questions, right? What's going on? How long has been happening? When's the last time it happened? Who else knows about this? What did your wife say when she found out that when you guys got the bank foreclosure notice? Or what's your wife saying that now that your hours are getting cut back and you're not sure you're going to make next month's mortgage payment?
mm,
These are all open-ended questions. They're directed to achieve a certain goal, right? Like I said, the depths of despair, right? Uh, there's all designed to elicit a certain emotional response, but that again is what compels them to take action. Again, how emotional are we? We talk about features and benefits with the drill. How emotional were you when you talking about horsepower? Like, there's no emotions here,
mm,
right? But when we're talking about like the emotions, this is what gets people to move, right? Like we all want to think we're smart, but the reality of the matter is that we're just animals. We're just the smartest animals on the planet. We're on the top of the food chain. That's about it, right? But we're still instinctive. We're still reactive. Doesn't matter how smart we think we are. We respond to stimuli, and
Hmm.
so we got to get a feeling emotions by going through the all the uh, emotional roller coaster with the dopamine and the cortisol, and then they sell themselves.
Yeah. So you're going through that emotional roller coaster with them. Obviously, you're
Mhm.
uncovering the decision makers and
Mhm.
influencers. And now the
Yep.
part, of
Mhm.
course, is you're going to get to price, right? So how are
Right.
you getting people? Because I think every appointment I've ever walked into, the first price they say and where we end up are usually about 75,000, if not six figures away from each other.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
do you get someone who's saying, I want $240,000 to my house and you need to buy it for
So
150?
so the first thing I would say is, um, oftentimes most people believe price is the most important thing.
Hmm.
Most people believe that, but the reality, like research has shown, like it does not. Right? Price is not the most important thing. If price was the most important thing, like we would be using flip phones, right? Like we would be driving Kias. We would have dial-up internet, right? Clearly, we're willing to pay a premium for some niceties, some convenience, and so whenever we're focused on price, purchase price, right?
Hmm.
We're behind the eight ball in what we're doing here, and so what we always encourage our clients, the ones that get the biggest margins, we're focused on how much the homeowner wants to walk away with. So,
Hmm.
Mike, how much were you hoping to walk away with versus how much you want for your house? Because how much you want for your house is a high anchor, right? You got Zillow, Redfin,
Hmm.
Realtor, Neighbor, blah, 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 right? Like we're focused on that. But like, how much are we hoping to walk away with?
Hmm.
Especially if we went through pain, we did a good job here, and we figured out like you need $30,000 to get out of here and start your life over. Okay, so like it sounds like, Mike, to be able to take care of A, B, and C, you need to walk away with $30,000.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, man, if I get $30,000, I'm good. Okay. How much do you owe again? Okay. So we can help you walk away with $30,000. You're telling me you feel comfortable getting this taken care of. Right. So
Hmm.
we're focused on the net, not the purchase price. So that's step one. If we can make that happen, great. That's our best deals.
Hmm.
But that's less than half the time, right?
Hmm.
That's like 30% of the time. So then let's say we don't get that. Now we have to talk about price, right? Now we say, okay, well, look, here's the thing, Mike. I had a chance to do some research before I came over today, and I noticed that there were some houses that sold to cash buyers up the street between X and Y, which is two numbers lower than your offer amount, right? So I noticed some cash buyers pay between X and Y. I'm not saying this is my offer to you, but if someone came along and offered you between X and Y, what do you see yourself doing then?
Hmm.
And so we've anchored them really low, and we all have this belief, right? It's a myth that whoever says the number first loses, right? And so this is our way of bypassing that,
Hmm.
right? They think, okay, we got the number out of him. Now we can start negotiating. Because like, how
Hmm.
much do you want? They're going to hold their cards close to their chest. Hey,
Hmm.
look, we were looking at cash buyers nearby. They're paying between X and Y. I'm not saying that's what we can pay, but if someone came along and offered you that, what do you see yourself doing then?
Hmm.
And now the negotiations have began.
Gotcha. And then are you
Yeah.
always, I mean, assuming the need conversation doesn't work out, are you jumping always to kind of that anchor? Is that always the next step, or are you kind of asking?
100%. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. If we can't get net, then we're focused on the anchor. I don't
Hmm.
care really what they say they want, right? If we can't get them to the net number, right? Because if we can't get them to focus on, if the net number doesn't work and they start talking about their price, well, now we got to talk about price, and we're going to talk about price, and we're going to anchor them as low as possible,
Hmm.
right? But we're not the bad guy. It's the other cash buyers, this is what they're paying. Like, what do you want me to do here,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not the one that's saying they're paying like that's the right offer. I'm just asking you what your opinion is if someone offer you that.
Yeah. And then from there, like, how are you taking that conversation? Let's say you're still, I don't know, 40 grand apart. They want
Mhm.
200 and you're at 160 is your absolute max.
Yeah. So it depends then the situation, right? What are my exit strategies? If cash is my only option,
Hmm.
then I'm going to pull out. But if it's like I have other options, then I might say, well, I can do that, but I don't know. You'd be open to it. What if there's another way I can get you that amount? What if there's another way I can get you that amount of money?
Hmm.
But the first thing always is still, I want to pay you. I want to pay you the 200. I wish I could,
Mm.
but I can't.
Yeah.
Right. And now they're like, well, what you can pay is like, not that. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, these cash buyers are paying between 130 and 140. These are the smart guys. This is what's available out there if you're paying cash. If that's what they're paying out there, how can you ask me to pay 200,000?
Ah, okay.
Right? Because like they'll anchor you on Redfin and Zillow and
Sure.
Realtor.com all day.
Yeah.
Why can't we do the same exact thing with cash comps? Two can play this game.
Yeah. And I like that approach too. It's kind of like the Chris Voss, how am I supposed to do that approach? But I feel like that
Mhm.
lands better because sometimes if you just say, how am I supposed to do that? They just say, well, you just do it. And then you're like, oh,
Exactly.
it doesn't
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
work. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is what cash buyers are paying. Like how much more are you? How can I pay more than that? Like this is what the market is.
yep, I like
Yeah.
that. Awesome. Well, we're getting close to the end here, Steve, and there's always two questions I like to ask at
Hmm.
the end of the show.
Yeah.
First being, what is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation that you have ever experienced in a real estate deal?
So this is back before I became this kung fu master. I say that in jest, but I do a lot of kung fu now. But I remember there's a house where the ARV was 245, right? And I could pay 180. Like the house didn't need anything. The guy was a bodybuilder. He was going back and forth Mexico. Like I could buy this 180, put in the market tomorrow for 240, make 20 something K, right?
Hmm.
Easy, easy deal. Because I was wholesaling a lot at this time. I wasn't wholesaling, I was just wholesaling everything.
Hmm.
And so I was like, well, I gotta be a 180. He's like, no, you gotta pay 240. It's like, well, like I want to, but like I need to make this work. For me to make this work is 180. Now I mentioned the guy was a bodybuilder, right? He's also got some anger issues. So if you can imagine, we're at the kitchen table, right? My back is against the wall. I can't even run. So he's on the other side. My back's against the wall. This is like a bay window kind of situation, like a little kitchen nook.
Hmm.
Like I have got nowhere to go. I can't leave. I'm literally cornered by a bodybuilder who is significantly stronger than me, right?
Mm.
Like you can see the muscles, like you can see like the the outlines of his pecs, right? From his t-shirt. And so he's like, "No, you're paying 240." And then all I can say at this point, because I'm hosed, because the guy was getting pretty angry, I was like, "You know what? I might be able to make that work. Let me go to the office. I'm going to run some more numbers, and I'll get back to you."
Probably
That's all I
smarter
had
than.
left. That's all I had left. I was not going to win through violence.
Yeah.
I was not going to win through force.
Yeah.
All I had left was like, you know what? I might be able to make that work. Like 180 to 240. I might be able to make this work. I just need a little bit of time. Right? Let me go run some numbers. Let's see if I can do this. Like ARV is 245.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the most uncomfortable. Like, crap, what am I gonna do?
I think that would be the one exception to I think it over is acceptable is protecting your
Yeah,
your well-being.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I, as the buyer, needed to think it over.
yep. Awesome. Well, the second question I always like to ask for the newer people listening to the show
Mhm,
is if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when you were
mhm.
looking for that first real estate deal, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Interest rate is irrelevant.
Hmm.
So I bought my first property in '05, became a
Hmm.
realtor in '07, was going to real estate investor conferences I remember '07, '08, sometime around there. And I saw these guys lending money at 18%. And I remember talking to my broker, who was my mentor. I was like, that's stupid, right? Like, that's credit card interest rates. Why would anyone ever borrow money at 18% to buy properties,
Hmm.
right? And all this time, there were all these houses available for $30,000, $50,000 that cash flow on day one at 18%.
Hmm.
Knowing what I know now, I would have bought the entire city of Phoenix at 18% interest
Yeah.
because you cash flow on day one, right? So I was so focused on interest rates But if I'm cash flowing, right? Like I got into real estate because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Mailbox money, cash flow. I was so focused on the 18%,
Hmm.
I didn't take into account these properties' cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So I could have bought all these properties, 30, 50K for 18% interest rate, cash flow on day one. These properties all worth between 300,000 and 500,000 today. So knowing what I know now, interest rate is irrelevant. Cash flow is way more important
Hmm.
than interest rates.
Yeah. I think that's a good piece of advice. Steve, if people want to reach out to you after the show, if they want to check out your AI tools or they want to learn more about your sales training, how can they go about doing that?
The best place to go, objectionproof.ai. From there, you can just upload a transcript. You can text the word script, SCRIPT, to the phone number 33777. From there, you'll get my book, Active Listening 2.0, a bunch of bonuses, and also a call review from my sales team if you want. Right, that's all free. And then we have our podcast, Disruptors. So Disruptors on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify with Steve Trang. Unfortunately, there's some other knuckleheads out there with the name Disruptors Podcast. And then there's another podcast, Close Marcel's with Ian Ross. So if you go to Close Marcel's, that's the only Close Marcel's podcast. So I think those are all great places to find us.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, Steve.
Thanks for having me. This has been an absolute blast.
Yeah.